now how we can actually deploy an app service into an Azure portal. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to create portal.azure.com, and here I log in. Microsoft seems to be upgrading their terms and conditions also. We are logged in into our Azure portal, and now I go to see, this is the default. By default they created this, something completely new. Anyways, I go to now the app service. Now you will see app service listed here. By chance if it is not here in your case, it will be there of course, but by chance it is not there because somebody else has modified the environment. You should go to all services and search here app service, and once you find it here, bookmark it. And by when you bookmark, it will be at the end. Simply drag and drop on top. So we have app service. Right now it's a blank thing. Now I create an app service. See, these are the different templates which are available in the gallery. This is gallery of app services. So I can start with the very basic, that is web app, or I can choose among so many other ready-made templates. You have all popular templates available here. Something like WordPress is there, Sitecore is there, Drupal is there, Orchard is there, CMS. All these are different ready-made templates. You can just choose any one of them. NOP Commerce, which is very popular, all popular ones. So I choose a default, very basic, that is web app. You may want to read this at every point of time. Whenever you are creating a new service, take the opportunity to read about the service over here. Very brief introduction, but really nicely given here. Click on create. We want to give some name, and whatever name you give, by default is going to become the name of your website. At least the default name. Of course, later we will see we are going to change this to a custom name. So right now my site URL is going to become dssdemoservice.azurewebsites.net, and obviously this name should be unique. If somebody has already used it, you can't use. Select your subscription, the relevant subscription which is going to get billed. Use existing resource group or create a new resource group, it's your choice. I would like to create a new resource group, demo.org. So it's already there, so I'll use that. Now, the app service is for hosting various types of applications. I told you it need not be only .NET. So the platform do you want is Windows platform or Linux platform to be used in background. That also you can choose. Of course, my demos will be with .NET. To be precise, with .NET framework, I'm choosing Windows. But if I choose to .NET Core, I can go for either Windows or Linux. It's my choice. Do you want to publish code or do you want to directly create an image? Now, if you select Docker image, you can provide here the container. Basically, you have to provide a Docker registry image name. That we'll see later sometime, but right now we'll go for basic code. You have to create an app service plan. By default, there will be one plan created, but I don't like the name of it. So I'll prefer giving my own name. Instead of creating this as a new plan, I'll prefer going to create new and give a proper name for it. Now let's say my demo plan, or I'll call it as my demo basic plan. Now what is the significance of plan? It is based on the plan only. It will be decided where is your app service hosted, basically the location. I want to put it in central US, it's okay. And it is also decided what will be the costing, in the sense how much memory should be used, how much, let me quickly go there, but in detail I'm going to discuss about app service plan later. How much memory should be used, what should be the CPUs, how many CPUs, one, two or four, and what are other features, like do you want SSL support, you want scaling support, you want extra storage, all these things we are going to discuss about later. But right now, for development and testing purpose, it is okay to take something like basic. Actually speaking, free is good enough. For most of our needs, free plan is good enough at the time of learning. In free plan also, you are supposed to learn all the features except few, but the limitation of free plan is your site can be used only for 60 minutes. That means the compute time cannot be more than 60 minutes. So when the site is idle, it is not counted. Only when the site is executing a request, the code is getting executed. At that point of time, the time will be counted, and overall in a day, more than 60 minutes will not be allowed. Automatically your site will get blocked after 60 minutes. So we are going to discuss more about these plans. We have got free plan, shared plan, basic plan, standard plan, and then we have got isolated plans, a big story, and very important to understand, otherwise you end up wasting a lot of money. That we'll see in another session. So right now I just selected the plan. There is something called as application insight. This is for capturing all the details about your app service, the visits, your application code, performance, your resources, dependencies, whether it is database or JavaScript or jQuery, all that complete application insight. If you want to enable, you can do that also. Of course, right now that is not the target, that's not the focus. So I'll keep it disabled. We'll take up this also in some other topic, some other session. So the app service now gets created. It takes 1 or 2 minutes and your site is actually ready. With some default content, you will see that your website is hosted. Yes, the progress will be indicated here. When this action is completed, you will get a button here, go to resource. Even otherwise, you can go back and close rest of the screens. Just close this and refresh, and you should see your app service in a while here. That's it. It's all deployed, and we can say go to resource and you'll see the app service here. So these are all properties of the app service, property pane, settings pane we actually call it. So many things we can do with an app service. Even without doing anything, you just click on this and you can see the output of your app service. The default page comes here. This is the default page of the app service. So the administrator would actually be responsible for creating this infrastructure where the app service is supposed to be hosted, and certain details the administrator is supposed to give it to the developers. Now, let us see how a developer would probably develop a website and deploy the website into app service. So I take something like Visual Studio for development. If you are not a developer, you just take some basic HTML file also for your demo purpose. But I'll prefer you having Visual Studio Professional or at least Visual Studio Community Edition installed on your machine. Just go to visualstudio.com and install Visual Studio Community Edition so that some basic demos you can try on your own. I'm not going to do anything very complicated. I'm creating a simple new project which is a ASP.NET web application. I'm not choosing core. You can do core also. I'm just using ASP.NET web application, and give a name to your web application. Most of the time, not necessary, but preferably you can keep the name of your web application same as your app service which we have created. Rather, it should be other way. The name of your web application should ideally become the name of the app service created in Azure. Put it in some folder. I just choose the default MVC web application template. I don't want to make any changes, but I would say yes, my site is ready. The default code which is generated is good enough for me to deploy. So we may probably want to do the testing of the website locally first using localhost, and only when we find everything is working good on my local host, I would want to deploy this in Azure. And there are different ways of deploying it. Not just one way, there are different ways through which we can deploy the site, and different times we use different ways. So let me demonstrate each one of them. First, just execute the website locally. You can go to debug and start without debugging. Control F5 is a shortcut. And your site is ready. Right now on localhost, port number is some randomly chosen by my website, and some default content comes, which is good enough. It's changing also, all fine. So now it's time to move this site as it is into Azure App Service as a web app. So what we have developed is actually a web app, ASP.NET web app. Like this, you can have a Java web app or a Python web app or PHP web app, any kind of web application you have. From Studio, how are we going to publish? So right click on the web app, and there is an option here, publish. And then now you'll have to create a profile. Now how do you want to publish? You have various options here. Obviously we don't want to publish using IIS or FTP, which we use when we have a dedicated server, or if you want to publish it locally and then manually move the whole thing using FTP to the server, choose this folder option. But in our case, we want Microsoft Azure App Service. And most important thing, we don't want to click on create new because we have already created the app service. We want to select an existing app service. Publish. Opens a dialog box. You have to add your account here. So you have to log in. Log in with your username and password, and the account will get listed here. This login should be your Azure login, which has permission to publish the app service. That login is what we are supposed to provide here. It will take a while. Once you are authenticated, all your subscriptions are going to be listed here. So under whichever subscription you have hosted the app service, that you will have to select. Followed by that, you have to select the resource group, and then from the resource group demo.rg, we have got DSS demo service. So an existing service I have selected. Of course, as I told you, if you have not created the app service in portal, you will have the ability to choose the option create new, and from here itself do the creation of app service like the way we did in portal. Studio itself will also create the app service for you. So profile has been created. Even before you publish, let us look at the settings. Actually, it started publishing, but you can look at the settings and make changes to these settings. So you have web deploy. You see in background it's publishing actually, but in the meantime, this is the site name. This is the username and password with which we are logged in. That means the profile was downloaded, and that profile is being used for publishing. Because we provided their username and password, we connected to Azure portal from Studio. Based on that identity, some profile is downloaded on this machine and encrypted, and the same is being used here. Remember, the profile downloaded will work only on this machine. If you want to port that profile on another machine, you'll have to provide a username password again on that machine. This is the destination URL. You can check your connection validity here. You can go to settings and you have option of either publishing a release version or a debug version. Most of the time during development we publish a debug version, but when we are ready to move to production, we want performance more than debugging solutions. In that kind of case we go for release version. There are other advanced options. You have to be careful when you are choosing them. For example, remove additional files at destination. Now if you put a check mark here, all the files which are already there on the server will be deleted. A fresh copy of the server would be created for you, we can say that. All the files will be deleted. So be careful. Precompiled during publishing. Of course, this is for ASP.NET websites, which are not our targets right now. We are doing ASP.NET MVC web app. If you are doing a web form which is not compiled, then you may have to choose this. And many times we choose to put a check mark here because we don't want the files in app data to be published, because app data generally locally is used for putting a local database for testing purpose, but in Azure we might use a proper other database. So this is the profile. Once the profile is created, you just click on publish and the whole site gets published. It's already published here, right? All the files of my web application which are required for execution are published. Remember, all the files implies, it does not implies the source code. That means the model classes, the controller classes, the CS files are not published. They're all compiled. And whatever is the compiled output, all that gets published, including the web.config file. And yes, your site would be ready. You can see here, it is dssdemoapp.azurewebsites.net. And it's the same site. So this is how using Visual Studio we can publish a app service.